Heavenly Father, today we put on the full armor to protect us against attack. We put on the belt of truth to protect against lies and deception. We put on the breastplate of righteousness to protect our hearts from the temptations. We put the gospel of peace on our feet to walk in your light, peace, and freedom with the Holy Spirit. We rebuke anxious thoughts. We take up your shield of faith for protection to block and destroy all the darts and threats thrown at us by the enemy. We put on the helmet of salvation to cover our minds and thoughts, reminding us that we are children of a mighty King. We are forgiven, set free, saved by the blood of Jesus. We take up the sword of the Spirit, your living word, that has the power to demolish strongholds and is sharper than any double-edged sword. We come to you, Lord, in prayer daily. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen. What's up, you guys? Welcome to The Imagination. I'm your host, Emma, and today I am joined again with warrior mother, survivor, family court reform and survivor advocate, independent researcher, entrepreneur, nonprofit owner, podcaster and podcast host, healer, and daughter of John Walsh, former and upcoming host and creator of TV show America's Most Wanted, Meghan Walsh. If you missed Meghan's first episode where she shared her testimony, here's a short recap. After questioning the mysterious disappearance and death of her brother, Adam Walsh, her father's relationship with Epstein, and her true family history, a strange turn of events happened almost immediately as Meghan's 4 children were ripped from her loving arms, her parental rights were severed, and her children were trafficked to her parents, John and Reve Walsh, by CPS and the corrupt secret family court in an effort to retaliate and silence Meghan's legitimate concerns about her family's past. And ever since, Meghan has been speaking out loudly and publicly against CPS, the foster care system for all survivors, and the family court corruption in Indian River County, who are colluding in an obvious attempt to silence Meghan's voice on behalf of her family. Meghan herself was born into a multi-generational occult-based family, and one only has to do a simple Google search to see all the affiliations the Walshes have with famous celebrities, politicians, and global influencers. One also only has to start digging for answers to questions such as, how did 2 adults, John and Reve Walsh, who lost their firstborn child that ended up dead, how could they possibly stand a chance to win in family court against a loving, sane, and devoted mother like Meghan, who has never had any criminal charges pressed against her? And when we ask these questions, we see that there is a clear agenda to punish Meghan for being the cycle breaker of her family. What are the Walshes trying to hide, and why are they going through such efforts to sabotage and strip Meghan of her parental and human rights, home, children, and her voice? Could America's Most Wanted actually be John and Reve Walsh? Luckily for us, Meghan is tough as nails, and she has taken to social media and other means to be loud about the abuses being perpetrated against her and her children, instead of succumbing to the constant barrage of threats and intimidation being thrown at her from all angles to silence her. One only has to meet Meghan once to see she is a beautiful from the inside out, talented beyond measure, absolutely brilliant, and a loving and sane mother. Meghan has been a fierce fighter and voice for the voiceless for both survivors and parents, and we are all so lucky to have her on the battlefield. One of my favorite things about Meghan is how she carries herself in public. She has every right to be mean, hateful, and even spiteful for what's been done to her and her children, and instead, you will only see her presenting factual evidence and information from a loving and truthful standpoint. We all have so much to learn from Meghan, and I can speak for myself when I say that this incredible woman motivates and inspires me daily. The last couple times Meghan was on, we discussed her testimony and some important updates related to her children and family court cases. And today we're going to catch up with Meghan, as well as introduce you all to a new business venture she has been working so hard on and recently introduced to the public that I'm super excited to talk about, called Project American Families. On this channel, we know how corrupt the scene is for businesses and nonprofits who allege to help, assist, and advocate for our children. And it's really exciting that Meghan is using all of her resources to compete in the nonprofit space to provide actual meaningful help and support for families and children who are victims and survivors of these corrupt establishments and organizations. I couldn't be more honored to have Meghan on today and ask that you all put away what you're doing and give Meghan your full attention. Before I finish introducing today's guest, I wanted to give just a couple reminders and updates. If you'd like to be on the podcast as a guest or share any information privately with me, please email me at imagineabetterworld2020@gmail.com. You can also use this email if you'd like to be part of my new book series featuring written survivor testimonies. You can find the video with all the details on my podcast channel. It was just released last week, and I will have it in the show notes. And lastly, I'd love your support on my Substack, where I'm taking up investigative journalism as an outlet for me to share about the podcast, guests, and my advocacy work. And you can subscribe to me there at www.emmacatherine.substack.com. All my links are in the show notes, and I'd love your support across all platforms, you guys. Thank you so much for caring so deeply about survivors and for helping to make this the safest space on the internet for all survivor disclosures. So you guys, without further ado, please help me in welcoming back today, voice for the voiceless, walking miracle, woman of God, fierce mama bear and protector of all children, and someone I'm honored to call a dear friend, the one, the only, Meghan Walsh. Meghan, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Oh, Emma, thank you for having me. Gosh, I'm choked up with that intro. I can't thank you enough. And thank you for giving this space and providing it for survivors and victims. I'm so happy to be back. As you said, it's been a couple months, and I know a lot has transpired and a lot is coming out and a lot more being heard and a lot more realizing and starting to understand from different perspectives. And a lot of that has to do with yourself and others like yourself that are providing these spaces. But I do have to say, this is probably the safest and best space for victims and survivors on the internet right now. And we really love you and appreciate you for it, genuinely. So thank you first and foremost. And thanks everyone for joining in today and those that have continued to support my work and the situation that's going on. It's, I would say story, but it's not a story. These are people's real lives and especially children's lives that are involved in this. I know, I speak about my family and my children and my experiences, but I do speak on behalf of those that cannot. And there's countless across this country, and it does go internationally, but we need to be looking at our home first. We know, right? Like, we need to focus on America first right now and what we can do here. And sometimes, it's a lot of information in these different scenarios, and especially when it's new about occult practices and trafficking and our government and all of that. It is a lot of information, and it is a huge shift in perspective from what most of us have grown up in and been taught or have experienced or thought we knew. And a lot of that goes into, obviously, the place that I am and my family's situation to date. And for those just joining or just finding out about my story and my situation, I understand who we're talking about, right, Emma? We all understand that we're talking about John Walsh. We're talking about the National Center for Missing Exploited Children. And obviously, subsequently from that, America's Most Wanted and the work and everything that has, stemmed from that. So, as you put so well, just to kind of, I made a couple notes for today so we can, like I said, stay, on point, because it of information, but we are moving into new spaces. Like I said, people are really starting to realize, people are sick of the way that it's affected them in their own lives, and starting to understand that. And especially with the help of many of the guests that you have on here, especially Nathan. He's doing a lot of great work and really explaining things well, and staying grounded. So I did want to say that, but it's time to be moving into these spaces where we are actually creating the response instead of this fighting. And I'll get into that later with Protect American Families. But, we really need to be moving into the space of creating things that we no longer have to depend on what has been implemented, what we have allowed, or what these other intentions and entities with, nefarious intentions have established across our society in many different ways, not just CPS. So I just wanted to give a little bit of that, but going into, kind of a recap or giving updates on what's transpired in the last months or since I've been on the show. I was, obviously in court and dealing with the weaponization of the system and the daily terrorizing and still completing the case plans, even though it was fraud, proving all of the evaluations, all of the drug tests, we have proven everything. But I think as we're seeing that, many of us are being denied under the Social Security Act our right to due process, or then we're not allowed to or permitted to, put in that evidence and really bring that forth in the courts. That's a whole other show for another time. But that has been an issue throughout my cases and in the efforts to bring my children home. I don't think that people really realize, the terrorism and, the tactics. I think people are starting to, but, the different tactics that are used, it's like you are leaving a cult. Literally, you are shunned, your children are kept in and brainwashed, everything that you had was taken, you're defamed, you are harassed, and there are many people and many entities behind my father, John Walsh. And yes, I am. I want to say, side note, yes, I am the daughter of John Walsh, but I'm the sister of Adam Walsh. And many will remember that from the little boy with the baseball bat and what started all of this, which is very important for what we talk about moving forward. So I do want to mention that for those that haven't made that connection yet. But going back is that I have been fighting and I have, forced to fight and be threatened and, in terror and in fear of my life for going on 3 years now. The children were taken and my baby, my older three are with my parents. My baby, my precious baby Esther, that was taken at 5 days old. You can find that footage and everything on YouTube. We do provide proofs, as horrific as it is. I've had to live through this, and I've bit the bullet so that the American people can see, what is really going on, and to also back up others that are coming forward about this or being put through this. So that can be found. But my 5-day-old baby was taken after I filed federal RICO case against everybody. And as I was saying, despite all the efforts to complete the case plan that was fraud to begin with, my baby's never been abused. The only abuse that she's ever endured is horrific abuse by the system, which taking a 5-day-old baby, that is essentially attempted murder on the baby. And so I have been, fighting through that. We had a lot of, again, infiltration. We had, the courts we know are lawless. I mean, I'm touching on stuff that everyone is learning and starting to understand, but I want to give validity to that. I had no chance from the beginning. The decision was made. My child, a couple months ago, about 4 months ago, I arrived to court and my father suddenly ambushed the trial and showed up as a sudden witness. And I witnessed him in a side conference room in the courthouse where the lawyers for the state were all laughing and talking about how they have to get out at 3 o'clock because they're going on vacation. And the sheriff, which, the police are heavily involved in this domestic trafficking issue. They surrounded my father, coming in as, protection or surrounding him. And I literally watched my father in front of my face sell a baby in a backdoor courtroom deal. And that baby was mine, his own grandchild. So now my baby is, they're in the process of adoption to a stacked foster home where foster homes and apartments are taking in children for paychecks. And she's essentially being raised by the 2 teenage biological daughters while the woman works. And, we have that in our history too of my family. So this is, again, I'm bringing that up to kind of interject the generational aspect to it as well that we are finding. Again, I want to say that this isn't, a sudden thing right now. We've been enduring this going on 3 years now. And I was already an advocate speaking out against the corruption within CPS and family court, and that being our child trafficking in America prior to any of these, my children being taken, and then suddenly in a day, I'm a criminal, a drug abuser, a child abuser, severe mental illness, everything that we've proven false to this date. It's all, even the sheriff, I'm trying not to go down into things, but the sheriff even was telling people, there's more to this that, has to do with drug abuse and mental illness and all of that, which is a violation of HIPAA. That's defamation. I mean, these are very serious things. And then on the aspect of court that we've been going through, it does deal with crimes against children and humanity. We all talk about that, and we all wonder what it is, and we think it's just this gory, something like in tunnels and, adrenochrome and all that kind of stuff, which is not negating that. But we have to be looking at the source here in America, and we cut the head of the snake off, right? So we have to be looking at the source. And we know from even my father's own mouth and everything that, an estimated, and the FBI, 88 to 92%, and that's only the reported amount of child trafficking in America, comes from the foster care system. So that's what led me to start asking questions that you had mentioned in the intro. Things like, if this is true, then what is the National Center doing about this issue? Where's legislation? Where's reform for the system? How are we protecting these children? Is this really what is, helping? Is this actually even really helping them? Or is this destroying children and our American families, which is the nucleus and the fiber of our country? That's what we are based on under God. And so when I started looking into these things, as you had mentioned, I've done this research over years. I looked into my brother's case. I started looking into the National Center. My brother's case, all of the files are available on justiceforadam.com. It's a website. Anyone can go for free and look. Again, that's justiceforadam.com. And I think that where we are today as a society, if people really looked at that even for a second, they would really start questioning not only the case itself and what transpired from that, how it affected America with stranger danger and pedophiles, and your child being, kidnapped by a stranger pedophile and all of that, and what really came out of that, moving forward. Thank you, Emma. Yeah, so this is Willis Morgan. He went to bat and went to court, and with another Jay Greeland and some other gentlemen, and got the records released, actually, which my parents fought tooth and nail to keep closed. And actually, in my dad's new intro for America's Most Wanted, he talks about how hard they fought for the case files to be out. So we have to remember occult inversion, projection, inversion, that kind of stuff, that perspective. Excuse me. I'm so tired. I've been doing podcasts and everything, guys. So please forgive me on my my flubble of my tongue.
But no. Real quick, Megan, I actually quote you. You have an amazing quote that you say, where you say, if we don't participate, they don't profit. And you just brought up America's Most Wanted being revived. And I just want to say to people listening that we do pay with our attention. And I would ask all of you, if you stand by Megan, to please boycott and please do not watch or promote the new America's Most Wanted. I just want to put that out there because I feel very strongly about pushing against bullies and pedophiles and traffickers and all the abusers that you guys hear about on this channel. We cannot give them a platform, and we do that with our attention. So I ask you all to please advocate for Megan and go see her work. Check out this website. Check out all the resources she's going to give you. And please, please, please boycott these corrupt establishments, TV shows, celebrities, whoever it is that's coming against survivors and parents. We need to boycott and stand with survivors and against them. So I just wanted to say that real quick.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Emma. I'm not here to be against anyone or to, slander anyone or anything. That's why we haven't seen a lawsuit yet either on all of this. Exactly. I would love discovery, and they know that. And so I really do appreciate that, because part of, what I feel I'm here to do as well is to explain some of these aspects of the industry and, things like that we haven't really been able to get into because they've done all of this and we're handling the trafficking. And that's okay, because by the grace of God, this affects far more people, and especially children. And this is where we need to be right now. But I do also like to interject for those watching, aspects of the industry or deeper aspects of this, so that people can start to, just kind of mull over that or think and decide for yourself. Look into it if you'd like. So again, going back to this real quick is, justiceforadam.com. All of the case files for Adam are there. All the people that love research, we had some great threads this past week on people really digging into the history of my father and my mother. And that's really where I started, was who were John and Reve Walsh before this Adam narrative and put out into the public, and as this all-American couple who lost their son, and the story from there that really was jarring and traumatizing to the American public, which then opened them up to trust and belief and authority. And then the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children was established, which really became, as Kathy O'Brien, Ted Gunderson, many people have talked about, the National Center was created by Congress, facilitated by Senator Byrd, who was one of Kathy's handlers and owners. And he was given an office in the FBI building in Washington, D.C. to oversee the creation of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, to be the catch net for the domestic child trafficking. So essentially keeping your product in the system and quiet. And we've seen how that has, the National Center was established, and legislation surrounding kids. My father will quote over and over again that, yeah, exactly. And age progression. This is how we got to the digital police state under the guise of help. So, oh, that's funny. It says, the bowling alley. Anyway, so I was just trying to see what you were putting up, but we have to be looking at, then legislation was created from this. Now this creates large funding. We know that statistics, just like ratings that you mentioned for television shows and stars rely on ratings. Ratings are how many people view it. That's how they make the money. That's how they get renewed the next year. So just like that, within the nonprofit world, and also CPS, which is the Moloch beast system. Everyone likes to talk wild about it, and then you get chalked off as crazy. I've been a religious scholar for over 20 years. I have minors and, studied and hands-on experience and hours in training and all of it for over 25 years, within occult practices, within healing, all of that. And we have to really be looking at, how did these things affect? Maybe they sound good. We're seeing that overall with legislation in other areas. We see politicians put forth bills like the Ukraine funding and things like that maybe have other things slid into them. Anyways, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but we see the creation of the National Center that then established this legislation, which then creates, funding, and you're able to receive money. They receive over $40 million of our federal taxpayer money a year. And for me, how is that being used? How is this effective? Would a federal based organization, which is it actually even a nonprofit organization with every 3-letter agency involved, Homeland Security, ICE, all of it, and being located and headquartered in Alexandria, Virginia, is this actually a government agency that is fronting as a nonprofit? And these were the questions I was asking as well for those that are watching. And then when we go into the donors and we look at the partnerships and everything, we do see over 18 million in private donations, including, Face Meta now, as well as the big guy, which was Les Wexner, who through his L brands, he was donating significantly to the National Center because, he gave Epstein power of attorney so that he could really focus on his philanthropy, he says. That's actually a quote that, yes, that was his reasoning, one of his reasonings for handing over power of attorney and giving all of his money to Epstein so that he could focus on his philanthropy, and then we see him donating through his company to the National Center for Missing Exploited Children. A lot of questions about money laundering obviously come into play, as well as the fact that the National Center has the world's largest child porn database. So who is overseeing that, obviously, would be the question. If they're the highest authority, why are they the highest authority? Again, this supposedly isn't a government entity. And furthermore, who has access to those databases? So those questions come into play, and we see also the Epstein Foundation itself donating to the center. And then we know from there, in cases like Madeleine McCann and other cases like that, the bigger nationally known cases, we see a playbook from study and research and comparing the patterns. We see a playbook of, something significant happening to a child, the parents coming out and being stoic, if you will, and the literal scripted line that my dad and brother say. They're saying it now on America's Most Wanted nonstop on the intros. They're going to come out and be strong so that what has happened to their child will not be in vain. That's the phrase. And then these parents go on, and they're supported by John Walsh, who's the original, character, the original, I'm the stoic, I'm the savior, my brother was the first one, or my son, excuse me, was the first one. I established this. He's the mentor, to these families, and then they create a foundation. And then what does that do? Now we're back at the cycle, and we're creating another smaller shell, basically, of the same thing, kind of like what we saw with the Clinton Foundation hotline, where even if the organization didn't say Clinton hotline, all of the calls were funneled back ultimately to the Clinton human trafficking hotline. So it's the same kind of an idea that we're seeing with the National Center, but the National Center was established. I mean, we have to understand that this was 1983 in our history, and that we were going into the Clinton Foundation and Polaris and all the things that we've seen, Thorn now, all of these kind of shell companies or organizations that are all connected. They all profit from data, and that is now being used. Again, is that actually protecting us, or is that targeting us? Do they now have all of our children's, school pictures uploaded to LifeTouch? That's creating a new database. Our children are literally being now put into systems where we would have had to commit crimes to be put into those systems, in the past. And we're having state-raised children, and they're working hand in hand together. So we've watched and copycats go over and over again, now into the international realm with the help of the McCann case, going into the creation of the International Center for Missing Exploited Children, which was founded and funded by Eve Branson and Richard Branson of Epstein, NXIVM sex cult, donor founder to Ghislaine Maxwell's Terramar, a sovereign water area, and an international child authority organization. I mean, what are we talking about here? This is very serious. This is the house of cards for all of this. We're all getting online every day and talking about child trafficking. We say we want to end it. We want it to end, but we really have to start saying, who are the people, whether we like them or not, whether we thought that they were our saviors. I mean, I love my father and mother. I love my family so much. A lot of that is trauma, and a lot of that is genuine, but I have to separate myself, because we are not responsible for the things that others decide to get into, or that others are supporting, or even turning a blind eye to. It's time to ground these things, to move into spaces where we're not fighting, we're standing, and we're with the truth. The beautiful prayer that you read the beginning of every podcast that you do, that's what we should be standing in. And we know that, by the grace of the Lord. So I'll stop. I won't go down on that one, but I just wanted to point those kind of things out. People have asked me also on updates. People have asked me, I've gotten everything from I'm a man to I'm wearing a mask to, Ron DeSantis is Adam to, your father sacrificed Adam. Meghan says he sacrificed. I'm not this drastic of a person. I'm not a black and white person. I know that especially in these kind of scenarios, these are sacred things and real lives with nuances. And that's also why a system over our children is never going to work. It's not the way to handle it whatsoever from the get-go. That's why I support abolishing child protective services and the family courts. And it is time for law enforcement to be on the side of the people, for social workers to be looked at as, why are you not supporting that? Why are you participating in something for money that is destroying children right in front of your face, undeniably? And because your higher ups give you immunity, or you're bullied, or you're threatened, then leave. And we've had many people in my case, and we've done great work coming forward to give people that space. But law enforcement is going hand in hand with this. It also goes back to my case, and they are peace officers. I'm not a raging liberal. I'm not defund the police. I have supported police my entire life. I know that we need law and order. I appreciate and respect the law when it's applied and when it's followed. I will never support corruption, and no one should. And it's what's taking over and has taken over our country, and has put our families and our children in not only jeopardy and severe danger, but to be trafficked and treated as product and animals. And that's really where we are. I mean, to a lot of people it sounds very dramatic or whatnot, but that's the reality of where we are. When you look at the legislation, when you look at how these people are talking about us, how they operate in their daily life, I lived it. I had no idea. I was like the oddball because I always wanted to hang out with the kids from public school, and be at their house, and, different things like that. And I'm very grateful for that, because I realize, what's going on at my house is not normal. And so, but then you're groomed, that's a whole other thing. But I feel fortunate for that. In other words, that I have been able to, by the grace of God, be in this, realm and see these things and live this lifestyle. And there were many, it's not to say I didn't have a great time on a trip or things in my life, that I didn't have a good life. That's not what this is about. But we have to be looking at deeper things. Why does Hunter Biden have the issues that he has? What is this family ritual abuse? What is this, sexual abuse to a child? When you're a parent and you have a child and you're treating the child like a partner or a lover, or, depending on that child, that is sexual abuse to a child. That does affect them later in life in their relationships. And so, you might hear, oh my gosh, that's great. She said sexual abuse. No, it's not. Yes, it is, because of the fact that it does affect in relationships later on in life. And when we're looking at things like pedophiles and all of these things, it does go back to childhood trauma. It's what I took years to specialize in and train and work with other people to help heal, and specifically focusing on not what that is, but identifying what it is, and then moving forward into how to transmute, how that becomes like a great director for you to actually help other people. Your hardships are our greatest life directors. We grow through them. We become strong. We see different perspectives. It really sucks in the moment, but we as people really need to be learning, because that is inevitable. We're all going to have hardships, and it is inevitable. So it's how we respond to them. It's how we move forward and help other people and help prevent others from experiencing what we have, or supporting others by showing understanding and things like that, which obviously goes into the purpose of Protect American Families for me, creating this nonprofit. And that in itself is a point. Everyone nowadays, it's like, oh, nonprofits, and no one trusts it, and we've got all this. And yes, that's where we're at. We need to be questioning that. We need to look at OUR. We need to look at the National Center. We need to look at Thorn. These guys are all the same playbooks. It's the same shell protocol and playbook for the organizations. It's the same chosen puppet type and created character, the savior, give you the dramatic, get you to donate, all of this. I believe nowadays it's called a grift, that kind of a thing. So, we have to be diligent, not all crazy and flying around the air that there's, child trafficking going on, and what are we going to do about it, and all of that. That's what they want to happen. And Epstein is the same way. We've the flight logs for years. We've had, different things. That is to make the public feel that we have to give over our power to higher courts and that somebody else is going to have to solve this because this is bigger than us and we don't have access to it. I've just right here, even in a short, brief one where I've gone into many others online, people can look at my other interviews, have gone into breaking down the connections of the National Center and how that is the hub that does extend out to Podesta's and Clinton. It extends out to Branson, which goes into, even Clonate in the Bahamas, or it goes into Big Pharma through different avenues. We've got it on both sides. And people have also actually started making those, the kind of charts and breaking things down as far as the connections. And it is showing up on that. So it's great. And we need more of that. We need more people to just start groundedly realizing and questioning. And how you do that is you do contact your representatives, you contact these organizations, and you say, I, as a member of the American public, a concerned citizen, we would like to have these, questions addressed. We would like to know what is your stand on, child protective services? What are you doing about that? What about the border? Where's John Walsh for the border, you guys? Why isn't he on the border going, we're saving kids every day? Which is interesting. On the new reboot, they have now started the messaging that the America's Most Wanted is all about families. When was it ever about families? Yeah, it's all about families. And the first case that they did was a couple that beat up a DCF worker and went on the run with their children. This is satanic. This is like by definition, it's satanic, y'all. So you have to understand, I just went from here 0 to 100, but that's for a point. You have to understand that this is logistically satanic. They are inverting and projecting and giving you like the cover story, right? I know my dad's done the cover story for 9/11 in Oklahoma City bombing and Versace murder and all the stuff. He's been the first guy on the scene for all of it for decades. He is the face of police. And what America's Most Wanted did was really start this, like propaganda, if you will. And it's horrible to glamorize crime and victims and profit from it on television, and especially the murder of your son. I understand, the center and things like that, if it had been kept to that. But now we're at a different level, and that's involving Rupert Murdoch and Fox and, all of these large corporations that are behind my father. When then we go back to, his history with, where was he? He wasn't just some guy working a job, a cabana boy at the Diplomat. He was a hotelier. Like he was literally in the hotel business, creating and doing deals for a huge developmental property on Paradise Island in the Bahamas. Paradise Island is Meyer Lansky. It is CIA. It is everything. There are pictures of my father with, Burt Reynolds diving in the Bahamas before Adam ever went missing. So, we have to really be questioning. I think maybe the theme today, because I skipped around a lot, and I apologize, guys, because we were doing this off the cuff. And again, I actually have a podcast every Saturday night on Rumble. I guess that segues into that. I have a podcast every Saturday night on Rumble. The channel is Insight, INSITE. And the show is Reexamined with Meghan Walsh. And we go over the court documents. We talk about all of this stuff, as well as, who was actually involved at the time of Adam, and, really looking at things aside from the narrative that was put out in the media. And as I was saying, I guess maybe that's kind of more of the notion of today's, purpose here. I don't really like to focus on myself. It keeps me working harder, moving forward and healing when I can spread, messages and information that affect, everybody. This does ultimately affect everyone, and especially if you have children in your lives. So, we just what is this? Oh yeah, there it is. There's the channel. Gino is the main guy for the channel, and sorry, I just skip to that, but he's got some great shows on there as well. We have Rescue the Fosters is on there with Sylvia Beachy and Danielle, and Sylvia was an ex-case manager, and Danielle has also had her child kidnapped and has not seen him in 6 years, and it was National Center related. We have a lot more cases and children coming out that are related to the National Center and saying that they've been trafficked. If people are on Twitter, they can go to Teachers Against Trafficking as an account, also on TikTok, and that is a boy, Yeshua, and his father, Othello, that have come out very deliberately, like I have, about the fact that John Walsh, Obama, Kamala Harris, and some other people are responsible for sex trafficking him from the age of 7 to 15, where he was forced to take things like hormones to grow breasts for snuff films. He was forced to drink 32-ounce cups of men's semen, things like that. And he actually was told that his father was dead. And that was because his father was doing community work. He had made a program in the community. He went in for the bid for the county, and he didn't know it was against National Center. He didn't know it was against the Las Vegas Metro Police. And he won the bid, which took a lot of money from them out of their pockets, and they don't that. And they used Amber Alert to put him on the Walmart missing wall and say that, he was a pedophile and had taken his son, custodial, the parental abduction. That's a grift. That is not real. That is, again, as we've brought up earlier, to keep your product in the system, to keep who you're trafficking, that catch net, the original intention of the National Center from what we're seeing now. But he was told that his father was dead. They had I can't remember how many, but U.S. Marshals come in, take the child, lock Othello up, and really just terrorize them every day. They gave the child to the maternal grandmother. They gave Yeshua to the maternal grandmother, who actually was the trafficker, a generational trafficker. She had trafficked Yeshua's mother since she was the age of 3. And then they started trafficking Yeshua out to career criminals and to politicians. And he has an incredible story. And these stories should be what is being covered, and what should be first and foremost, not only obviously mainstream. It is what it is. We know media blackouts. My situation proves it perfectly, I hate to say. But I'll be that one, I guess, yet again, right? We've taken enough hits to prove it. We know that this is God's plan, not ours. These are cases that are very serious. This is not a joke. They do tie together. It does identify a network. It identifies the way that this is operating within our countries, who the real cartel is domestically and domestic terrorists. And, unfortunately, as we're starting to see, we're all realizing it's the ones that are saying they're doing the most, right? And so for this cognitive dissonance to be occurring over the public due to the fact that it's John Walsh, is very debilitating to the cause, but also very telling of the chaos magic, the glamour magic, the cognitive dissonance, a lot savior complex, all of that even his show America's Most Wanted was implemented in America to achieve, create this hypervigilance, get people against their neighbors, big brother agenda. You can report, we need you, that kind of stuff. And again, what are these cases about, and what's the truth of these cases? And, I've talked many times, I think even on here before, about my friend Lindsay and her case in the Finger Lakes, where she was groomed through, a guy that was connected to the music industry, and taken out to Las Vegas and murdered. And I watched my dad and the network make up a narrative to get ratings. Again, we're coming back full circle, to get ratings, and re-traumatize the family over and over again, when we knew who most likely was the killer, her pimp boyfriend, the one closest, right? And everything. We had all the evidence, but instead they made up some Neil Falls, how ironic, for the fall guy. So they, for those that understand the levels, we have to mention, we can't end this without mentioning Masonic theory. Okay, so we just have to realize that we are watching Masonic theater. They get off on how much they can trick the public in that context. So we're speaking in that context, it is about that trickery, getting off on it, who can do it the best. These are the games, which, we've got the game caller with the finder's cult. So see, it all always comes back around. And so for me, again, I guess, for me, it was about coming up to end this, and, we could go on for hours, I know, and I hate that we have to get off, but for me, it became, what is that solution? Like I said, identify the issue, come up with solution, take care of the root of the problem, and move into a space of, what are these solutions? What's the healing? How can we do better ways to that? There's better ways to all of this that we're talking about. We're not negating that child abuse happens, or that there aren't pedophiles or anything like that by any means. It's about, how are we addressing them, and how are we protecting our children and families? And is what we're allowing currently actually doing that, or is it destroying us? Which is now proven to this point. It's no longer a question. This is not a failing system. This is a failing business over our bodies, our children, our flesh and blood. And we need to understand that. We need to get very disgusted by it. We can't keep this apathy. We can't keep this American kind of thought and process and way of living that until it happens to us, we don't have to worry about it. I mean, everyone in our lives knows a child or has a child in their life, or hopefully cares about children, and things like Amber Alert. What is that? What is the sex offender registry? Is it actually in stranger danger? Is this actually covering for the root in our country, which is familial trafficking or familial sexual abuse or ritual abuse? And how does that work hand in hand? Who is doing that? Who's involved in overseeing it? We know it's the judges in your counties. We know it's the CPS workers in your counties. We know it's the doctors in your counties and your communities. So, that's really why. And I was saying earlier, we've got, everyone is freaked out about nonprofits and everything, and rightfully so. So here we go, guys. I've created Protect American Families. Okay. This is a response. We are going to transmute everything that was created for good and has been taken and just, I don't even know the word, just mutilated into bad, right? Yeah. So we're gonna transmute that. This is a grassroots effort. This is not a big platform. This is not, we've got the show and the flash and the funding. We have nothing. We're starting at nothing. We're going to the people. We are asking to get involved for a reason. I need people. This country needs people to start acting in their communities, in around them, just like a small business. Like I began, you need to start with a good foundation, and then it spreads out. So if people are really focusing, this is what I want to emphasize through Protect American Families. There's a huge focus on children too, if you notice. Well, guess what? Children have families, and that's where they come from, and that's what affects them later in life if you deny them their origins and knowledge of it and all of it. It's actually something we never talk about in this country, is real and genuine children's rights, which every child has a right to their biological family. Okay. I can say that furthermore, because we know statistically and through many studies that even if things like domestic violence or abuse or substance abuse, or financial struggle, all of that, even if those issues that children are being taken for now are present in the home, it's actually more successful if child is left in their primary care. The child has a healthier outcome. They're more adjusted. Families have hardships. We all have crap. And we've been put in this PC and this subjective realm where now we're saying just, oh, there must be more to the story why their child was taken. Oh, there's things we don't know, things like that. No, people should be enraged by saying no one's child should be taken from them. As a community, it's our responsibility to love thy neighbor as thyself. In our community, it's our responsibility to create outlets and resources for people having financial struggle, for people that are struggling with substance abuse. And I'm not talking about for-profit rehabilitation centers that all of these people, the same people, own. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about talk therapy and the modern mental health, industry that it's become, where we're telling our children that they're all messed up. We're drugging them up. We're all taking pills. I was discriminated against because I have a medical marijuana card and I choose a natural way for what I was finally diagnosed with after a year. Never a diagnosis, never anything in my realm of healing that was my career, my job, where, when you're abused, you can go one of two ways. And I definitely went polar opposite. I was known in the community. My children are beautiful. And, we have to start moving towards that space because, you can heal, you can use things that are natural, you can live in a natural way. And that's really and it's not some hippie granola weird thing. It's science, right? Follow the science. So it's how to detox your body, how to stay away from oxidative stress, how to heal the trauma, that you're experiencing, or the hardships that you're experiencing in your life today by, looking back once, taking a couple times. It's horrible, but looking back at your childhood, what were those experiences you had? How did that trauma affect you later? Can you do better moving forward? That's just self-improvement. That's beautiful. That's wonderful. And all this other crap of fighting and taking things down and all these notions are really debilitating us. It's keeping us in this trauma-based mind control, for lack of a better term, that we've experienced all on a mass level for the last 3 years plus. And now we're in the response, part of it, where it's hyper vigilance and we're starting to attack each other and everyone's questioning everyone. And, we have to also stop this. I get chills. We have to put a stop to that and say, you guys, we're not going after each other. We're not doing this crazy talk anymore. We're on social media platforms. Let's show real threads of information. Let's put statistics up. Let's start creating. If that's the realm that you can work in, is online, and you don't feel comfortable getting involved in your community, then do that kind of stuff. Or come over to Protect American Families and get involved with us. If you do want to get involved in your community, we're starting ways and trainings and informationals and workshops on how you can start your own chapter of Protect American Families in your community. Because then we spread like a network, right? They want to talk about network and they want to talk about catalogs. Well, let's make catalogs on all of the politicians for each state and county, and let's all be collectively messaging them or saying, why aren't you speaking out about domestic child trafficking via our child protective services, our law enforcement, and our government? By you all, why aren't you talking about this in America? You want to talk about the border? The border is a byproduct of our domestic trafficking system. Traffickers would not be bringing children to the border if they didn't know that there wasn't already a well-oiled machine already in existence in plain sight, that they can allow the children they're bringing over to go in, get processed, they get a work visa, and then they get product right back. You can take in foster care kids, you can sponsor kids, all of that. But again, what about our American children? We're talking about 800,000 children disappearing every year. Where is that happening? Who's doing that? How is it happening? It's through our foster care system. It's through our family courts. It's not runaways. Now the National Center and all these entities blame runaways. You're victim blaming now on top of it, and the victims are children. Are we really there? So I want to get a handle on this crap. I have to say humbly, right? I want to get a handle on this. Protect American Families. Let me look down at my notes real quick. Protect American Families, again, is just really about helping people create this and be supported to come together, creating, like I said, politician databases, creating databases of cases of, children that have been kidnapped by our government, but having people can go and have resources, how they can find out how to get involved, and also if it's happening to them. So ultimately, it's about overtaking the system that is working against us. If we are simply and humbly and with good integrity creating things like, Protect American Families, or if you specialize like rescue the fosters and foster care children, or in your church with people that are homeless on the street or about to be homeless and they have children, how can you do it? The real way to protect children or to help children and in this country is support their family. It's to look at the adults. Our children are being punished when we're saying that the parents are abusing or they're not providing, or then we take the child into state custody, and then we put the child with strangers, and then we pay strangers to take care of that child and transport the child around, literal trafficking terms. We have to get real about this. Social workers need to understand that they are trafficking children. They are being pressured to falsify documents, to perjure themselves in court. The judges are not following due process. They are following the law. It's not even a real court of law. There are no crimes half the time to these cases of parental termination. I've never committed a crime in my life. I've proven all mental health evaluations through all of this, right? Even through the 3 years, I have proven it. And I have, like I said, finally been able to be diagnosed with adjustment disorder, the new DSM-5 adjustment disorder, because I can't get over the fact that my children have been kidnapped and trafficked by John Walsh, and, the country's ignoring it. So that's where we're at. It's a lot of skipping around. I'm a little off the cuff again today, so I'm going to, for like the third time, apologize. But this is, I get amped with this, and, it is a broad picture. Hopefully through today's interview, if you're watching, there were, again, aspects that resonated within you that you want to look further into. We're all different. We all have different talents and strengths and things that we need to bring to the table. If you're a great researcher, if you're great at organizing information, if you're great at if you're great at speaking, any ways that we can actually simply be participating and putting effort towards changing this, where then we're the ones that get the contracts from our tax paying money. We're the ones that have the oversight and don't mind accountability and don't want immunity from this. This is the space we need to be in. There needs to be full transparency, full accountability. And if there is child abuse or something like that going on, then if it's at a level we have, granted it needs huge reform, but we have a criminal justice system for a reason, then that's a crime. These courts have no founding, no basis, and children are being cut from their families. Loving homes. We're not talking about, we're at the point where the abused are still in their environments. They're ignored. The abused are ignored because that's problems for the system. So I'll end on what I started with, a Moloch beast system, which sounds crazy to other people, but literally when you have a system that takes people from the community and gets them to take in steal children under whatever you want to say, whatever the excuse is, but you're taking children, you're giving them to the system, you're getting profit from it, you're getting a paycheck from it, you're getting community accolades, and you're this social worker, or you're this DCF person. The grab the chest. I always say John Walsh and Reve are great at it. The grab the chest, and you're receiving money from that system that you have now fed that child to, handed it over. You don't see it after that. You handed that child over. And guess what? That system needs more and more children every year to keep going. And by that, it grows bigger and bigger and bigger every year. That is Moloch. That is how you worship an energy or an essence or a pervasion, whatever you want to talk about, that affects our society and goes into our society. That is what that is. It's just a name to put on it. We're human. We have to come up with a way to describe something or to identify something. So in ancient philosophy, that is what they use. Baal, Moloch, you guys talk about it every day, and your viewers are well aware. So we have to understand that is a created, literal in the gut, which actually Alexandria, Virginia, where the National Center and International Center headquarters are, is like, it's Moloch. It literally is the military representation and area, whatever we want to call it, for Moloch, the Canaanite god. So when you are handing children, judges, workers, police, law enforcement, when you are taking children, no matter what it is, and you're giving them to the system, and you're collecting a paycheck and adding to that system in larger statistics, larger funding, you are worshiping Moloch. So for anyone in the system that wants to claim that they're Christian, I highly suggest that you go back to your pastor and, we can't do that these days. Excuse me, but go back to your Bible, the Word of God. I digress. I got to be accurate here. go back to your Bible and your heart and really see, because, if we have workers and law enforcement and judges and everything, and this is very idealistic, but if we have that turn and they do come forward or start to out of the woodworks and say, okay with this. This is not what we signed up for. And that is really how they do feel behind closed doors. And we know that. Then we would see a huge change. That would be profound. We would be so at such a different level in it. So maybe that's also something. If you talk or you tweet or whatever, or you have friends that are in it, maybe start just messaging to them that kind of of plant those seeds. And we want to change hearts here. We don't want to fight. We're not here to expose and take down and all this kind of stuff. If people have done bad, they've done bad, and we see that and we know, and that's what it is. If we've got a system that isn't working, that's now a business, it is what it is. We got to pull up our, bootstrap, pull our pant, whatever the saying is, pull up by the bootstraps, and we really need to come to the table, have the hard discussions, and get to work. People would rather be online tweeting about it and thinking that they're doing something about it, when that's not going to change anything. It'll spread more awareness, but that's not going to change anything. And as I say every time, as you and I sit and talk right now, children are being ripped from their homes and traumatized. Families are losing their children to the government for money and under horrible false allegations, retaliation, false arrest, being locked up. I mean, it is a humanitarian crisis, and we need to take the politics out of it, and we need to take the judgment and the shaming out of it. We all have crap. Our families, I mean, my father, alcoholic, sex addict, somebody in the family always has a problem at some point, or we go through financial hard times. This is America, I mean, look at where we're at now, where people can barely buy groceries and keep roofs over their heads. So if we don't get a hold on this, that is a huge opening for all of our children to be taken. And I'm not about fear mongering like my father. This is real. I have taken years, and I haven't been so bold over the years because I had to see it for myself. And now to see Adam's case and, the involvement with the police and how all of that has panned out and what has, come from it, and then up to today's issue, I cannot stand by. And that is our duty as American citizens. And when you stand by or turn a blind eye to it, you are part of the problem. That's not an accusatory, wild, cliche thing. You are part of the problem. If you're okay with saying, oh, that person in my community must have lost their kids for a reason, or even chuckle about it, that's on you, honestly. So get to work, everyone. Stand up, see how you can get involved and be positive in your community, and how you guys can come together, how you can provide jobs for survivors, even if you have a company, if there's so many ideas and ways, and that's what really Protect American Families is about, and where I hope to be moving. But we need people to come forward, say, anyone can go to my Twitter, Meghan Walsh _. We've got, I believe, info at protectamericanfamilies.org. We've got the website. Yeah, thank you, Emma. There's my Twitter. It gets pretty wild, so I do get behind on DMs. I apologize, but I'm good at comments. We do have protectamericanfamilies.org, and if you'd like to email us specifically with ways that you can get involved, or where you are, or information that you might have on a local racket, we're open to that. That's info at protectamericanfamilies.org. We did do a workshop. I believe it's still for sale up there. It's only $10. We did a workshop to teach people as hunting the hunters on how to identify your local child trafficking racket. So researching the departments and the judges and the workers and all of that, and what you can do from there. So we really want to be providing that, coming together and showing people ways that they can actually and simply and safely, lawfully create change, not just awareness, but create change in their community. And we're working on this together. So whatever, if you're a lawyer, anything like that, even, we're open to all of it, but we're just, we want to approach this very humbly, with integrity, and, we need you guys. So.
You're amazing, Meghan. I can't thank you enough for all your advocacy work. I know we have to log off in just a second. Was there any other platforms that you didn't name that people can keep up with you?
I don't know. I know a lot of people are joining Twitter and just seeing my story, and I want to be. I'm so grateful for that. So if people can really just be, again, keep going on other pages, commenting about it, sharing the information. Go to Teachers Against Trafficking and share Othello's case and Yeshua's case. Be doing that, but. On Twitter it gets wild, and I do want to say with grace, I really show up. I answer as many as I can. I do get behind on DM, but also the fact that many are joining. I'm not going to be answering comments asking like, why were your children removed or what happened or things like that. Not to be rude or to avoid it. I encourage people to go online. There are many endless podcasts, endless interviews, even allegation specific interviews. Okay, so we're not avoiding anything. I've put everything up, but I'm one person, and it is re-traumatizing to people that are going through, especially when I'm still in it. My baby is being sold as we speak. I haven't seen my children in over a year when they begged for mommy to come home, and all of these children are waiting for the adults in this country to get with the program and to actually come stop this for them, save them. Literally, there's children sitting every night in their bed across this country waiting for others to come save them from what they've been put in and told that it's better for them. I mean, we are really breaking children. We talk about MK Ultra and all these other things, and these general terms are in the past and everything. That is what is going on. This system has been created to get to this point, to have children taken in, to be raised by the state. It's Hillary Clinton, Margaret Sanger, Dr. Kinsey. It is all historical. It's psychology, state-raised children, Virginia Tan with adoption, all of it. And we're to this point now where children like my daughter are born into a system, and they're raised in it, and they're broken. They're drugged up. They're broken. They're given to pedophiles. They are given to ex-convicts. We have the records and proofs for days of everything that we say. You cannot avoid this anymore. And if we are at a point that you either stand up as an American, or you are, again, part of it. So I just want to thank you for always supporting people like myself and supporting my efforts. Again, I'm not perfect, and I'm here to learn, and we need other people. We need people. We want great specialists, not weird experts that testify in court against people, but real people that see, what trauma is and what healing is. We need to be creating, spaces for families and children to heal and be able to come together. We can't just complain about something and then we end child trafficking, and then what have we done? We spent 3 years online complaining on Twitter and typing and not actually doing something about it that is for the response, for the move forward, like I started in the beginning. So we want to be getting to that space of healing, reuniting families, but it's like a baby being born. I've given natural birth to 4. And when you hear the mom say, I can't do this, what was I doing? What am I thinking? The baby's coming. So if we can just push through these labor pains of, oh my God, I can't believe that no, it can't be. Oh, they must have done something. Oh, that's too much for me. I have my yoga class later, that ruins my peace, that's not acceptable anymore. And we're there, which is actually an encouraging thing. So I'm not just, berating people about this or giving you a scolding. I'm providing ways that you can do this and that you can participate, where I think that there's been a lack in that too. So I thank you for supporting that. I thank everyone that, participates with us, comes to the page, even just having an open mind. So,
yes, girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. That's what I love about you is you not only have so much information, but you provide solutions and encourage that. You encourage love and unity and people coming together. And you're really the antithesis of what the enemy wants, which is for all of us to be divided and traumatized and in pain and fear and silence. You're really setting the example of the opposite of that, and being such a leader in this community and supporter of all survivors and parents and people trying to bring awareness of this. So thank you for your efforts, Meghan. And I'm going to have all Meghan's information in the show notes, you guys. Get involved. I'll have her email below that she listed for her nonprofit email. If you guys want to get involved, you can email me too with any questions that I can pass on to Meghan. Go connect with her on Twitter. She's very open, like she says, posts a lot of information on there. Please go support her Rumble channel. I'll have that below also. I will have all my links below. Meghan, I'd love for you to come back again soon. You're a wealth of knowledge. You're beautiful. You're incredible, brilliant. And I hope everybody on the other side of this is praying for you as you continue your efforts being loud about things that a lot of people don't want to talk about. So you guys go support Meghan, share this episode, share all of her links, go interact with her, get behind her, be her army, support survivors and parents who are out there on the front lines risking it all for the children. You guys, thank you so much for supporting the show and this episode. I love you guys so much. God bless you, and we'll see you next time.